How are all my Go players doing today? Have you been winning your games? Or have you been losing a lot of games? Have you been playing games at all? I, for one, have not been playing as many games lately because I've been trying to get some sleep. I've been trying to go to bed early. It's really hard to juggle everything that life has to offer and keep it in balance with everything. And sometimes Go will have to take the hit. At least in my life. So if you're in a position where you have a lot of time to play and study Go, I would say take advantage of it because you never know when life will grab you by the horns and not let go and not let you play Go. But I will, I'm sure, get an opportunity to get back into the grind sooner or later because I love Go and I'm not going to stop anytime soon. Welcome to Start Point, the show about Go for Go fans away from the board. And I wanted to do a little bit of a review of Isedol's, or Lisedol, if you're more familiar with that pronunciation, his interview with Google recently that was uploaded. It was done between Isedol and like a representative of some Korean sector of Google. And it's up, so I'll link the full interview in the description if you're interested. But I wanted to comment on some of the things that they talked about. First thing I noticed that was very interesting was the way he characterized playing against AI. So, okay, just to recap for anyone who's completely out of the loop, Isedol is a very strong professional Go player who dominated the scene, kind of before the Shinjinsa era, I would say, and he was the challenger against the famous Alphago match 8 years ago now, crazy, and he was the one who kind of was the first person, professional who fell against AI, or even then we wouldn't even call it. I'm not sure. AI is such a broad term. I think it's kind of evolved over time. But AI was kind of, in that form, I would say a pretty new concept, because the Kasparov Deep Blue one, it was, you might not even call that AI because it wasn't using like machine learning, but at that point it was like considered probably AI. But anyway, I'm getting ahead of myself. Isidore was, he's very famous for being the one to take on Alphago and play the 5-game match with it back in 2016. And in the interview, I thought he had a very interesting comparison for AI, like the feeling of playing against AI, because of course the interview is being conducted by a non-Go player, so this kind of characterization may be useful for them to imagine what it feels like, because when they see the game, they don't see anything meaningful to them. They just see a bunch of black and white dots on a grid. So he said that it felt like he was playing tennis against a brick wall. Like that level of, because like you can play tennis against a superhuman tennis player, but they're still like a tennis player. But I think anyone who's tried playing against a strong AI knows that this feeling kind of characterizes it well, where you're playing against a wall that just does not budge, does not give an inch. I thought that was an interesting comment that he made. And then further along in the interview, he also, this was news to me, mentioned that the second game that he played against AlphaGo, spoiler alert, so he he loses game 1 and loses game 2. Loses game 3, and then game 4 is when he comes back and somehow, and this is like a miraculous win for Isidore against Alphago, and then loses game 5. So basically gets 1 out of 5. Going into the game, he, along with pretty much the entire Go community, thought, okay, no, there's no way an AI is going to defeat Isidore in Go. It's just not time yet. Like we all thought Go was still in the works for computers, right? It's still too challenging for computers to win. That was really the case. Right now, with all this stuff coming out, you might think like, obviously AI is so smart, it can defeat anybody. But back then, oh my goodness, it just seemed like yesterday. it was just not conceivable that a computer could be that strong at Go. So he goes into the games thinking like, whatever, I'm gonna wreck this computer. Maybe it's just some kind of experiment. And then the second, he loses the first game, which is just a shock to him. And so what he comments in the interview is that his second game against Alphago was where he really tried to win and still lost. Because I think maybe the mentality of the first game was like a show match thing. Like, oh yeah, I'll humor these Google people who think they know how to play Go. And then when he lost, he's like, oh, wait a second, let me play for real. And he goes in and he really tries, and then he fails. And so I think I never really place that much importance on the second game because people really just talk about the fourth game, the first game, right? But it makes a lot of sense, right? Because the first game would be the one where you're kind of just testing the waters, and then the second game is okay, I think I know what's going on here. Let me just really try. And so that was interesting to me that he said that his second game was the one where he really tried to win. I don't really know how his mentality was going into the third game. He said his mind was kind of foggy, I think, going into that. And then the interviewer made a comment about something that he said that I don't remember him saying, but it was an interesting comment about the Alphago games, saying that this is his own personal limitation, but it's not the limitation of mankind, which was, it really gave a feeling of the Neil Armstrong quote, that's one small step for man, one giant leap for mankind, but in reverse. It's funny how when we accomplish something, we want to credit everybody, but then when we fail, it's just the one person. I mean, that's kind of how Isidore puts it. He's saying yo, just because I didn't defeat this computer doesn't mean that anyone else can't, right? Which, I mean, okay, let's be real, no one else could. But so it is the limitation of mankind. Besides that one interesting paper that was developed to defeat Catago, some researchers found a way to kind of trick it and defeat it in a game of Go. That was interesting. Okay, so more stuff that happened in the interview. He said that he doesn't read comments on the internet about anything when whatever game he's playing, because a lot of comments can be negative, right? And I think a lot of people who have some notoriety take this approach to social media. They just don't look at it, and it's probably a good approach. But he said that for this Alphago match, he did look at the comments, and it's kind of funny. And he said that he was surprised. He was surprised at the positivity he found online for people rooting for him. People saying okay, it may have been hard, but do your best. We're rooting for you and all that stuff. And he said that probably made a big impact on him going into the games. And he specifically also mentioned an interaction he had with his daughter, who was 9 or 10 years old at the time, and now is 17. That's crazy how time flies. I think when you look at how the age of children and how they grow up, it's the quickest way to feel old. But so they had a little moment together. Apparently, this is a story that he told during the interview. So Izedo and his daughter, who was 9 or 10 years old, had a moment together entering the fourth game. So, as I've said, the first 3 games he lost, right? And so this is getting depressing, right? You're imagine you're expecting to win clean sweep, right? And you're losing and losing and losing. And now this is game 4 already. And it's pretty discouraging, right? So he's going in, and his daughter says, no, let's just don't play the game. Let's just go home, right? Let's just leave. And he responded yeah, should we just leave? He kind of joking around, taking it very lighthearted. And he said that it made him feel at ease, and it really helped. And I like how much he's giving credit to these other, people in his life, for helping him through this very, very big moment, for his career. And I think that's just a very sweet moment that they shared. It's like, it almost comes out of like a movie, right? You see this like scene, you see this like big match, and then you see this little like father and daughter scene where they share this moment of like, yeah, let's just leave. Let's just, who cares about this stuff? Let's go. Of course, he did go in and play, and I think, he's crediting these, the people who supported him online and his daughter who was able to make him feel at ease. And if you watch the documentary, the free one that's available on Google, again, highly recommend watching it. You notice like people have commented like, hey, he looks different today. He looks more comfortable. He looks a little bit different. And then he pulls out this amazing move that tricks AlphaGo, and he defeats it. It's crazy. I think we couldn't have asked for a better story in terms of the whole saga of the AlphaGo game, because it's like, okay, well, at some point the AI will dominate us, but this like set of 5 matches, there was like such a nice story with like a last glimmer of hope coming in on game 4. Okay, anyway, so the next thing he talked about was a little bit more about like the AI impact on the Go world, and the way he described learning with AI was that it's kind of like trying to learn while looking at the answer key. So you need to be careful, and this is very common advice for AI stuff, and I'm going to go into some of that later in a little bit about how to really use your AI to improve your Go game. And when he was asked if he would repeat his life as a Go player, like if he were to redo his life, would he become a Go professional again? He said that he used to just say, yeah, like I think I would learn Go again and I would become a professional Go player. But now he's kind of reconsidered his response post AI and said, I would maybe still learn and enjoy Go, but I might rethink becoming a professional because maybe he would like some other kind of career. I don't know if he was just kind of trying to flatter the Google people, but he said maybe I would have, liked to be have an AI related career or something. But that kind of spoke to me in terms of like what really drove him as a professional Go player. I think a lot of people may be disappointed at his retirement. So if you don't know, he kind of retired. He won he had like a huge win streak after his AlphaGo match. But eventually, not long after, he retired. And people might be thinking like, it's silly to retire as a professional just because AI came on the scene. But you never know. I think the game could mean something different to everyone. And Isidore, the way he responded makes me feel like the way he valued the world of Go was like he liked the idea of being some kind of like frontiersman, right? Someone who is exploring the unknown and discovering things and leading the way and things like that. And then so AI comes out and it's almost like, oh, you've got like technology robots that could just go out and find everything for you. Well, I'm not going to really go out and try to explore anymore because you guys can do that on your own. And I don't think that's an invalid view of the game. I think that's perfectly valid, like to be someone who kind of like enjoy the exploration of the deep unknown. Not to say that we don't like AI. AI is great for learning, but it does maybe take away some of the magic of the unknown, right? I want to know your thoughts on that. But for now, I want to go over some of my personal tips for how to properly use AI to enhance your learning. Now, AI, some people even say don't use AI on your, especially if you're a lower level. I'm I'm gonna say like, yeah, okay, there may be some truth to avoiding AI, or some value in avoiding AI, because AI can mislead you quite a bit. So if you really want to use AI, I'm gonna try to equip you with some fundamentals, and then maybe some more advanced concepts for really utilizing your AI to the fullest. So some of the fundamentals, and I've gone over some of this before in previous episodes. First things first, learn how to review your games without AI, because AI will, like Sedol said, like it's like looking at an answer book. And when you're doing like a math problem, like you're not going to check the answer first. You're going to try to do the problem and then check the answer. So you don't want AI to take away the thinking and reflection that you have for the game. So try to preserve that. Try to preserve your own thoughtfulness and try to review things without AI, and use AI as an assistant and a tool rather than replacing your brain, because you're not going to get anywhere if you let the AI do all the thinking for you. That's fundamental number one. Second fundamental is when you're using AI, I highly recommend using the score. Usually it'll have a switch, right? A score or a win percentage. So a mode for the AI. So the score percentage, or the score mode for the AI, will calculate the value of each move based on like how many points it will lose or gain. AI will not tell you that you gained points. It'll just say you didn't lose any points because optimal play is 0. But that is, I would say, the way you should go, because win percentage, I actually don't know who uses win percentage. If you have a legitimate use for the win percentage mode of AI, let me know, because I never use it. Basically, the problem with the win percentage mode for AI is when you set win percentage, you make mistakes. Unless they're big mistakes, they're not going to change the win percentage in the view of the AI. Because like if white is leading by 50% or whatever, then like you make some blunder here or there, it may not be enough to affect the win percentage, because you don't need like more than 1 point to win a game. You don't need more than half a point to win a game. So unless it flips that point differential, it's going to just say, okay, white's winning 100%. And I don't actually even know, I'm not too familiar with how it's calculating less than 100 win percentage games. It's like kind of based on ideal play, which, you know, we're not going to play ideally. So score, I think, is a much more useful metric to look at the score differences between all the moves. Like how many points did this move lose? How many points suboptimal is this move? Because that's kind of the way we approach the game. But I want to know if anyone else out there uses the win percentage, or what that really is for. Okay, next fundamental of AI. This is a very key one, and if you're new to using AI, this is something you really need to bear in mind. Don't spend too much time on small point disadvantages. When you look at AI, you'll immediately see like little bits of red saying like, oh, you lost a point here, you lost 2 points here. Don't pay attention to those. Like those single point difference things like are so, especially in the opening, like unless you're at the very, very last end game part where like you're leading by 1 point and then you make a -2 point move, that's when it's really critical. Especially in the opening, I would say like ignore, depending on your level, right? If you're like DDK, I would say absolutely just ignore everything under 5 points of a difference. Maybe it's a little bit too hard of a rule. Maybe there are certain situations where you should be, you know, it's like sometimes there are fundamentals, right, that are not high point difference makers. Maybe there's like Hane went on the attach thing, right? Like, and that in that particular example is only a -2 point move, and but then it's like still a fundamental. So again, this is like all just there's two sides of the coin, right? The AI is a very useful tool, but we still need our human interpretation of the moves. But the big underscored point here is really pay attention to the amount of points that AI thinks it's deducting by playing this suboptimal move, and really pay more a lot more attention to the big ones rather than like 1, 2, 3 point difference moves, because even pros will make these suboptimal moves sometimes. And then lastly, for the fundamentals, I'll say that a decent move that you understand is better than a strong move that you don't understand. So always look at the AI with eyes of understanding and look at every suggestion that the AI makes. And if you don't understand why, then really take it with a grain of salt and don't think too much about it, because you're going to spiral into just a bunch of stuff that you don't know about, and you're just going to assume a lot of things when you don't understand. So really check yourself when you're using AI. Okay, so after you've kind of mastered some of the basics of what you should and shouldn't do with AI, I want to get into some of the a little more advanced concepts for how to use AI to advance your game. Now, I think AI has certain strengths and weaknesses, and I'm going to just kind of touch on some of those. In terms of review tools, AI's strengths, I think, come from a lot of the stuff that's very concrete. So one of the things that is very concrete is life and death. Sometimes you'll have a big life and death group, and AI will recognize it right away. And so when you're reviewing the game, you'll see AI wants to make a play on a corner group or an edge group. And if you explore the branches, you may find out AI is trying to kill that group. Or if it's your turn and you're trying to live, like AI may say, hey, you need to play this point right here, right now. And so when you find those areas where there's like a sealed off group and you're not sure about the life and death status, and AI seems to be suggesting moves there, I would say that is an opportunity to study the life and death shape of that group. So I think that's one of the big strengths of AI. And then another big strength of AI are big directional plays. So these are typically manifested in, like, you'll see like kind of like a push or an extend or something like that, but it's like ignored by both players and it's constantly being suggested by the AI move after move. Typically that is an indicator that that play is a big directional play. If you haven't already kind of identified it as some kind of life and death thing or something like that, if it doesn't look like some kind of killing move or something, typically like those kinds of turns and pushes that are just kind of showing up over and over again are huge directional plays. And so it's good to keep those in mind. And I think that's one of the uses that I find pretty helpful for AI. And then the last one that I think is the fundamental strength of AI is the use of AI to identify reading problems like Tsuji, killing, living, like I kind of mentioned before the life and death part, but namely like Tsuji, right? If you see things like disconnection of groups, poking out of eyes and making false eyes, sequences where you have to read multiple things out at once and like there's a definite solution, those I think you can really use AI, especially if they're game-changing groups. Now, what are some of the weaknesses of AI? I think that sometimes it's really hard to use AI to analyze abstract, large opening moves. You'll see AI suggest like, okay, approach here at this, like the fourth line, or do this shoulder hit or something. And that's all it'll give you. It's really hard to tell why. I suggest getting help with these. If it's something that you're really curious about, I mean, first of all, think about it, contemplate it, and take a look at the amount of things that you understand about it, and then like what kind of understanding it goes against that you have. And then try to find a stronger player and say, hey, what do you think about this move? Why do you think AI may be suggesting it? Or even do a blind test, like, oh, what do you think you should play in this case? And if the stronger player says something totally different than the AI, maybe it's not something that you should be too concerned about at your level. But if the strong player agrees with the AI, then it's great. Then you have double validation and you can say, hey, why did you choose this move? And that can be a good window into understanding the AI's suggestion, because those opening moves are the ones that are hard to test out. And That's the next point I want to make is kind of like the advanced technique for using AI to analyze your games, learning to ask questions to the AI. Now, the thing about AI is that a large move, like a huge move that you have to play or you will lose the game, that has been ignored by players, will blind the AI to every other aspect of the board. And okay, maybe you learned like, oh, I have to connect against this peep because it's super important and I get it, and I've ignored it for 10 moves. But during those 10 moves, I'm playing this other area over here and I'm still curious, like, did I play this side right? You can't find out with the AI because the AI is just going to be harping you on that one move that you missed. And so you won't be able to analyze that one area. There are a few ways to solve this. One of them is to make hypotheses and test them with the AI. Like, oh, okay, is this move better because this stone is here? Well, you can ask the AI that question. You can say, well, let me change the board state and put that stone there, or remove that stone, and see if the AI still suggests that move. So it's important to try to experiment with the AI and change the situation. So let's say it has that blind spot where you didn't peep and it's just harping you again and again and again. Maybe try making a variation of the board where you did connect to that peep and did play what the AI wanted to play. Does it start commenting on the other area of the board that you wanted to play, and see if that changes the answer? So it's important to not just flip through the AI and see all the moves it suggests, but also play with it and ask it questions. Recognize the difference between AI's local and global suggestions, because AI is going to always be looking at global. Local situations will often be crowded out by other more important moves. Sometimes local situations may not be local situations. You may get a suggestion for a local situation, and it's heavily affected by the rest of the board. And so maybe make a hypothesis like, oh, is this truly a local suggestion by AI, or is this more of a global thing? Like, if I change the rest of the board, will it change AI suggestion for this area? Nope. Okay, I guess it's purely local. So it's important to experiment and hypothesize and test out your ideas with AI. And it's almost like having a conversation with the AI and not just sitting for the lecture. Another way to recognize the difference between AI's local and global is the restrict region feature that comes with certain AI. I know that AI Sensei offers this, and I just did an experiment on how this really works. And so the thing is that the basic feature is you click restrict region, and then you can highlight a very specific part of the board, and it'll only suggest moves within that particular part of the board. And I actually was kind of hesitant on using this feature before because I wasn't 100% sure how it worked. But I figured out that, because my question was, okay, if I restrict the region, where does it think the board ends? Like, does it see the rest of the board or not? And the answer to that is it does. On AI Sensei, at least, it does see the rest of the board. It just won't suggest moves on any other part of the board. And I've confirmed this by saying, okay, let me put this box around here, and then there's a suggested move, right? And then I change the board state all around the board that's outside of the selected area, and it will change its suggested move within that box. That tells me that the AI is considering the rest of the board, but it's just limiting the suggestions to the selected area. And that's another example of what I mean by experiment. So you need to, this is a skill in technology rather than Go, right? Like, you need to experiment, test and theorize, hypothesize, and get familiar with the software and see how it thinks, how it works, ask it questions, and that's really the way to synergize with AI to help you improve your game. A final point I want to make is the big trap that everyone falls into when reviewing with AI is they'll take their game, they won't even look at it, they will plug it into AI, they will click next, and they will see, there, I should have Haned there, I should have extended there, I should have connected there, I was dead there, and they'll just kind of flip through very, very casually like that without really thinking about anything. That is probably not productive, not a productive way to use AI. And my suggestion to those who are doing that is study a few ideas deeply. Sit down with the AI. You don't have to study the entire game for like 6 hours on every single move. Pick a few points of interest and sit with that moment for an extended period of time, branching out different variations, and really get to know certain small problems intimately rather than just mindlessly flipping through the entire game every time. And I think that would be a good suggestion so that you actually learn something from the AI. Have you tried the skill tree on Gomagic.org? I think more people need to know about this because it's like Duolingo for Go. It's amazing. It hops around different topics like Tsuji, Joseki, Endgame, and it goes through all these things and makes you kind of check off various skill points, and it's free. That's the cool part, is like you can just go in and try the skill tree for free. But if you want to check out more in-depth content from Gomagic, they offer a huge library of amazing courses. And if you want a little discount from StarPoint, use the code StarPoint at checkout for 25% off your first purchase. That's gomagic.org. Now that you know some of the basic techniques for reviewing your games with AI, what AI should you use? Let me lay out a few of the most popular options. First of all, there is the OGS built-in AI analysis, which you do need to pay for. I believe it's like $5 US a month. And then it gives you access to analyze your games right there in the OGS interface, which is great. If you don't pay for it, I think it just gives you like the top 3 suggestions from AI. So not particularly useful in that regard. But if you want to support OGS and use AI as a review feature, that one will definitely do. And then there's my choice, AI Sensei. AI Sensei is awesome because it also has many other features built in, especially like the restrict region one that I mentioned earlier. And then it also has like a little community. If you don't understand a certain AI question or suggestion, you can put it up to the community. Usually someone will respond. And it can take in all sorts of SGF files, and also you can directly paste an OGS link in there and it'll just consume it and show you the AI analysis of that. And then there are multiple tiers where you can kind of choose the amount of playouts. And the free tier is actually pretty good for you know, I'm not really sure. I'm not an expert on how strong of the, like how many playouts you need, depending on how much strength you have. I have the basic, which I think is plenty for me. But I would recommend AI Sensei. And then we have Catago. Catago, you would need a little more computer knowledge. I've tried integrating it with Sabaki, which is an interface tool, SGF reader. You will need to find some kind of UI to view Catago with after you've installed it, which that's where Katrain comes into play. I think Katrain is like a UI packaged Catago. So if you don't want to deal with importing Catago into whatever SGF reader that you have, you can just directly use Katrain, which is, I think, for all intents and purposes, just fine. Powered by Catago, clearly. And I think the most important thing here, though, is find a setup that is easy and convenient for you to use, something that you can easily boot up right away and just get right into it. Because if it's going to be a hassle to, you know, get it running and everything, and you're not really sure how to use it, you're probably not going to use it. So that's just my suggestion for you. And now it's time for the DDK Advice Corner. The tip of the day is play in big open areas in the opening. Okay, I saw a game between 2 players, and they were playing moves like Small Knight's moves, and which, I mean, a small knight's move for an enclosure is great, but a small knight's move to back off, or even like an iron pillar. If you don't know what an iron pillar is, it's just kind of like two stones right next to each other. I was seeing these kinds of really slow moves in the opening. When you're playing the opening, your heart should be saying, oh, I want to play in that wide meadow. That big meadow is tasty. Let me drop a stone there. That's where you should be thinking. So I think the mentality really is just try to play faster. Faster meaning like bigger, wider, more open. Before you consider the 1 point jump, maybe consider the half board extension. I mean, there is that proverb saying the 1 point jump is never wrong, but that's why Go is so hard. None of these rules ever end up being right all the time. Go news. 18 pros confirmed for the US Go Congress. Among these pros, as if you don't know, the US Go Congress will be held in Portland, Oregon this year. And some of these pros that are going to attend and help out, give lectures and things like that, Kim Ji-seok, professional 9-dan, Yilun Yang, professional 7-dan. That's awesome to see him there. Hai Lee, professional 5-dan. Ryan Lee, professional 4-dan. Eric Louis, professional 2-dan. Mateusz Surma from Europe, professional 2-dan. And then Stephanie Yin, who runs the New York Institute of Go with her husband, Ryan Lee. And she is a professional 1-dan. And Eun-kyo Do, the one who runs Go Inside, the YouTube channel. So awesome people featured at the US Go Congress. That's pretty exciting to see that list of pros. They didn't release all 18 pros confirmed for the Congress, so I'm not sure who else is going to be there, but those are the ones that I've seen confirmed. And then Mateusz Surma, 3P, wins the 7th European Professional Championship. That was in Hamburg, Germany, from the 20th to 23rd of March. Where 6 professionals certified by the EGF played a round-robin series, and then the 2 finalists that made the finals of the championship, who won 4 out of their 5 games, were Mateusz Surma and Andriy Kravitz 1P, and Mateusz beat Andriy, repeating his performance last year when it was an online tournament. Oh man, it's crazy, like how last year was still kind of like affected by the whole COVID. I assume that's why it was held online, because of something related to the way COVID was impacting everything. Well, with that, it's time for listener mail. Ben writes in, "Hey man, just listened to episode 12 of your podcast. I've been really enjoying it so far. Keep it up. My name is Ben, by the way." Well, hello, Ben. Thank you so much for listening. By the way, listeners of the show, if you're listening and binge listening or something like that, and you still want to send in mail for an older episode, feel free to do so. Just, I would suggest using the email, because I kind of ignore past episodes in listener mail sections. So I just kind of use the most recent episode in terms of the comments section. But if you have a comment on an older episode, the best way to reach me is the email route. Ben writes, "Your question of how people got started is one I ask often of players I meet. So of course I'm excited to answer. Hope you like to read." I do. "I learned about it from Hikaru no Go. By the way, it happened and how it's changed my life is beyond a simple show. Right before I found Hikaru no Go, my family moved from my longtime home, 10 years in New Mexico, for my dad's work. I lost a lot of friends due to the move and was having a hard time fitting it in where we moved to. The show was entertaining, but it gave me something to put my time into. Sadly, I didn't know how to find info on the game, so I just played a couple games on Yahoo. Oh man, you know what? I actually really wish I could go back and play some Go on Yahoo. I remember it was there, and I never really got a feel for like how the players were. My friend like swears by flyordie.com, and he's gonna be so happy that I mentioned this this site on the show. And I don't know why, but he really likes that old school site. I think that one is still running, whereas Yahoo is out of date. And I also relate to the move, because I grew up in Canada, and when I moved to California, it was a huge change for me. Although Go wasn't my outlet, it was guitar, as I mentioned in a previous episode. I really liked guitar. Go came a little later in life. Ben continues, I kind of gave up on it, but I kept it in my head, thinking maybe one day I could learn more. Since I only knew the game as Go, I couldn't find any info on it. Such a pain, haha. Well, fast forward a few years, and at a community game night, I happened to meet a guy around my age playing Go. I was so excited to finally learn more about it. We played a game, and he offered to teach me more about the game. You know, you may have been excited to learn about it. He was probably equally excited to find someone who actually cared. Okay, Ben continues. I, of course, took him up on the offer. Fast forward a couple months, and this guy named Tyler started a Go club. This is back in 2009, so info and stuff is still not easy to come by. As time goes on, this club helped grow friendships that have lasted now for almost 18 years. Shout out to the Southwest Missouri Go Club. You know, I'm envious of you. That's an awesome thing to hear, to see like such a lasting relationship among Go players. And your point about information not being easy to find, I feel like we all kind of take for granted nowadays. It's so ubiquitous, and Sensei's library is packed full of information. You know, I'm always worried that someday like Sensei's library will go down and we will like lose this giant chunk of like Go knowledge. But I mean, we do have the Wayback Machine, so I think we're okay, hopefully. Anyway, Ben says, this random show got me into the game. Or he's talking about Hikaru no Go. The game got me into people, and these people became my friends. I'm still making new fast friends all the time through this game. Now, of course, I haven't always stayed consistent with my play, but now with my friends' help, I've been playing a lot more often and have finally reached 4Q on Fox, 6Q on OGS and KGS. Well, congrats. That's quite an achievement. I wish I could play more on KGS. I just never am able to find games, and I don't like my question mark rating, and it makes people scared to play me. So I can never like find the right. I think you're supposed to play bots, but I don't like playing bots. Ben wraps up with, it was a long road from a TV show in a foreign place, being all alone, to having a great group of friends, but now I'm really happy I watched Hikaru no Go. Ben. Well, that's a beautiful story, and you know, people are in such different places in life, and a lot of times we find ourselves in places where it doesn't seem like life has much to offer, but you keep going, you keep, you know, taking things day by day, and all of a sudden you're 18 years later with all these friends playing this game that you love, and life is beautiful. It just takes, you know, some stick-to-itiveness and just waiting patiently to see what life has to offer, and I think that was a beautiful story. Thanks so much for sharing, Ben. Crispy Toasts writes in again. Hello, it was a very interestingly timed episode, as Telegraph Go also released a video about self-review. I think you both hit on the same points. Don't use AI, look for where things changed, try to pick on a lesson to learn from each game. Oh man, did I say don't use AI? This episode I'm saying use AI. I'm just saying be careful with AI. If Telegraph Go is saying don't use AI, listen to Telegraph Go. He's much stronger than I am. Crispy Toast also says he's adjusted to review the games you win and not just the games you lose, bringing in the mentality of what did I do right in this game that caused me to win, and avoiding only spending time on losses. Yeah, I think that's the thing is that for me, I actually need to be told to review my games that I lost, because when I lose games, I don't like looking at them. When I win games, I enjoy reviewing them. I enjoy going back and saying, oh yeah, look at all these cool moves that I played. Obviously, I need to be looking at the mistakes I made as well, but I trust me, I review my won games as much as my lost games. But some people, they think, oh, only lost games have things of value to learn from, which is not true. You play suboptimally every game, no matter what level you are, so you definitely should be reviewing every game. Crispy Toast also writes, I have been trying to play at least one game a day and then review it the best that I can. If it was a game where neither I or my opponent blundered to determine the outcome, if it was a game, I also try to get it reviewed by stronger players. Yeah, that's a great point, actually, because like a lot of the times when you'll be reviewing your game and you'll find a very, very strong reason for one way or another, like someone lost or someone won. But every so often you'll find a game where like neither player made any huge mistakes and you just don't know why the outcome was what it was. And that's definitely when you bring a stronger player in. I think you're on the right track here. Crispy Toast continues. This definitely helps with learning things I didn't even think was an option, as well as working to adjust my thinking on why I thought particular moves were important. Thanks for continuing the podcast. Always a great addition to my drive to work. Well, thanks for listening, Crispy Toast. I'm glad you're enjoying it. And then Yaroslav Yusak 6716 says, what you said at the very beginning makes perfect sense because stronger players get better at identifying weaknesses. He's referring to what I said about improving, what it feels like to improve, and it's like sometimes you feel like you didn't improve and rather the people around you got worse, and so he's saying like, oh, it makes sense that stronger players get better at identifying weaknesses. He continues, they are more aware of agi and possibilities that are there, so when you up ranked a stone or two, you start seeing more mistakes your opponents, then you're starting to see more mistakes your opponents do than your promotions, and that's why you feel they are weaker or play worse and you are still at the same level. In so many words, right? I think that, like, although I am aware of this, although I do recognize that yes, becoming stronger is becoming more aware of your weaknesses, it's still like experientially just feels like I didn't improve. It feels like people are making mistakes below the level that I should be at, right? Like, does that make sense? I don't know. Maybe I'm thinking too much about it. Thanks for writing in anyway. And then Isaiah says, hi, I love the show. I'm actually a tennis coach who also plays Go. It's amazing how similar improvements are in both. Both have very technical skills combined with vague strategic skills. I think there may be some kind of intersect between tennis and Go that is stronger than I originally thought. It's really cool to see all these people come out with their like backgrounds in music and tennis and all these other things. If there's like a hobby that I didn't mention that you feel like kind of relates to your Go playing, I would love to hear about it. And for the question of the week, what AI techniques do you use to review your games? Anything that I didn't cover, any considerations or kind of things that you should be careful of, or any ways that you have found that really makes the AI shine in terms of a review partner for your games. Let me know in the comments if you want to share your thoughts on that question, or if you just have anything you want to share about the game of Go in general, whether it's a story or a question that you want to ask me. You can comment on the Reddit post for this episode or on YouTube, or you can email me directly at starpointpaduk@gmail.com. That's starpointbaduk@gmail.com. If you're a YouTube listener, I would greatly appreciate a like and a subscribe. Podcast listeners, reviews and ratings also help. A very special thank you to Chris M. and Jeffrey H. for supporting Starpoint. And did you ever notice that people who pursue careers in politics, when they play Go, they don't play the 3-4 point? It's because that doesn't provide enough influence. Okay, thanks for listening. Keep playing Go.